Yo, 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 once again, this is Crypto Crazy, and today I'll be dealing with the Sparkster ICO, but today in particular, I'll actually be providing a deep dive. So I'll be looking in quite a bit more depth into the actual ICO itself, the solution it offers, how it's brought about, and what kind of benefits that will have for the blockchain community. So, first and foremost, just to provide an overview as per usual. Overview is going to be quite similar to usual, but slightly different and a different amount of depth for each section, I guess. But we'll begin with a blockchain breakdown. Thereafter, we'll look at the problem with blockchain technology. And thereafter, we'll see who Sparkster actually is, what the platform provides, etc. We'll consider the solutions that they actually have to offer for the problem, the aforementioned problem. Thereafter, we'll look at an actual example, so we don't just view the Sparkster ICO in a vacuum, which is quite easy to do at times, and not really see its real world application. And thereafter, I'll provide some concluding thoughts. So first and foremost,
Crypto Crazy.
Let's have a look at the blockchain breakdown. Something we actually haven't done for quite a while, or possibly ever, I don't know. But let's see. So what is blockchain? Essentially, first and foremost, everybody knows of Bitcoin. Everyone's heard of Bitcoin and essentially various other first generation cryptocurrencies, and they've been all over the kind of headlines in the news reports, etc., for good and bad reasons at points. But what actually makes them so valuable, so innovative, so revolutionary is not Bitcoin itself, so to speak, or is not the fact that not is what is essentially what's underlying these cryptocurrencies, which is the technology, blockchain technology, and blockchain technology is essentially a distributed ledger, which can be programmed in to essentially record any kind of transaction conceivable. And the key thing about it being, because it's distributed, it means that the information is not actually stored in one place, but it's simultaneously validated across a range of network nodes, and that means across a network of nodes. So that means that there's not just one point of access. So imagine I was going. I always kind of phrase it like this. Imagine I wanted somebody wanted to break into a house. They all they have to do is pick the lock in of one door, right? But because things are distributed, essentially for somebody to break in, they would in this kind of similar scenario, they would have to break into like a city worth of houses. In the same way, if you had all your files stored on one computer, somebody only has to break into that one computer to get access to everything. But if if your file is essentially stored across a range, like is broken up into atomic sized pieces and distributed across a range of computers, a whole PC world worth of computers, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to break into. To break into all of those things simultaneously. And so that's essentially what blockchain technology does. It distributes the ledger. And so in order to really hack it, you would have to be able to overpower over half of the network, which is quite a substantial amount. And it's quite difficult to hack into all of those encrypted files simultaneously. It's probably quite an expensive task as well. So this means that blockchain technology is essentially extremely secure, exponentially more secure than a more centralized system where everything is just stored in one place, which is what is commonly done today in most, if not all other industries. So that's what's good about blockchain technology.
Crypto Crazy.
But not everything is so rosy. So there are problems associated with blockchain technology as well. And the two problems are essentially the inadequate transaction speeds and the limited pool of blockchain developers. And this essentially means that it will make it quite hard for blockchain technology to be a globally adopted solution while these two things persist. So I guess just to begin on the transaction speeds, Bitcoin right now can probably process about 3 transactions per second. Might sound quick, I don't know, 3 transactions per second, but the issue is that might be fine if like a few thousand users are making use of Bitcoin. But if billions are looking to make use of it, then you kind of want to be processing more than 3 transactions per second. You know, centralized systems like Visa, for example, process 24,000 transactions per second, or so, something of that kind of ilk. So, so circa 24,000, and that means that if we can't match those kind of transaction speeds within the blockchain community amongst cryptocurrencies, then at best, adopting kind of blockchain technology is going to be partially regressive, and that's problematic. And the second thing is, because blockchain technology is technically still quite a new field, it has been around for some time, but it is relatively new, especially in terms of how much interest it sparked over the last couple of years. That means that we don't actually have that many blockchain developers. We already have an insufficiency in the number of coders we have generally in the various industries, but and so, you know, various things like actuaries, data scientists, programmers, quants are in high demand, and therefore paid quite lucratively already. But we barely have any blockchain developers in comparison to that, because blockchain technology is generally quite a new field. And so because it's quite a new field, the demand has essentially grown faster than the industry than the industry can actually supply developers. And that means that because of how complex everything is, it stunts the rate of growth for blockchain technology as a whole, and also makes it quite an expensive endeavor if you're going to pay for these guys that are quite high in demand. So yeah, that's the issue.
Crypto crazy.
So who is Sparkster? Sparkster is essentially it's a company that's made a platform that seeks to address several of the biggest issues with blockchain technology at the moment. Sparkster essentially wants to create a platform that allows you to code and build things in, quite simply, plain English, whilst also maintaining an exceptionally high transaction speed. So Sparkster really seeks to address these problems that we've just mentioned. And Sparkster hits these high transaction speeds currently, and aims to hit 10 million transactions per second through the use of what they call sharding. They essentially can remove some of the constraints that are currently on other blockchains, because in their particular use case, their clients don't really rely on information being publicized. So one thing that is common to Bitcoin, etc., is that they publicly record all transaction details and validate them publicly, and henceforth it's ridiculously everything is ridiculously transparent and quite clear, and everyone can see everyone's transactions. However, for Sparkster's clients, that's not actually needed. They want their data to be privatized. They don't necessarily want people to be able to see everything that's going on in terms of transactions. So, for example, if you had an insurance company, for example, an insurance company doesn't necessarily want all of their clients' transactions to be publicized, or for one client to see another client's transactions. That's not necessarily the case. And so Sparkster is able to essentially not maintain something called the global state, which means that they can actually scale. They can have all their individual cells not actually speak to one another, and that saves them a massive amount of time and allows them to scale linearly in terms of the number of cells that they actually build. So this means that when all is said and done, they don't actually have any kind of overheads of trying to bring information back together or validate things with some extra layers and all this kind of stuff. But they also benefit from the transactions per second afforded to them by the individual cells, and therefore their total number of transactions per second is actually linearly correlated with the number of cells that they actually have. And they couple this with their own decentralized cloud, that their homegrown decentralized cloud that's designed to be a specialized kind of blockchain, and this allows them to really operate at a high number of transactions per second. I think right now you're going to see they're actually at over 52,000, practically 53,000 transactions per second from one of their latest test nets with 50 cells. And like I said, the number of cells is theoretically speaking, it's as many as they can get their hands on. It's quite unlimited. So this is quite beautiful to see them actually making steady progress to that 10 million transactions per second. But what's even more interesting is that this number is actually, I think, one of the first in the whole of blockchain, if not the first, to exceed that of the likes of something like Visa or a centralized system. With a high number of transactions per second. So this is a really beautiful step forward, and Sparkster's already delivering this before it's even dropped the ICO, which is quite wonderful.
Crypto crazy.
So the question is now, how does this solution actually affect the problem that we've been facing? So first and foremost, we had that issue of scalability due to slow transaction speeds. But what you have to realize is that if Sparkster is already beating the number of transactions per second of some centralized systems, then Sparkster is already at the point whereby, generally speaking, it is actually very scalable as we speak, which is quite beautiful to know. So that's the first thing. That's really good. But then the second thing is that this limited pool of developers, because Sparkster's built essentially a plug-and-play platform that allows you to drag and drop and a lot of like various blocks and whatnot, and to essentially build things in plain English. This means that you no longer need a finite team of specialized individuals who are going to essentially form key man risk within your company, and having built these black boxes that nobody can understand and nobody can get their head around or fathom. So Sparkster has defeated the issue of a limited pool of developers by making essentially everyone a developer without having any specialized knowledge. Anybody can essentially develop in the Sparkster platform. I can attest to this. I've tried the platform, and it is very, very straightforward to use. They say they haven't tested it on children, but to be honest with you, I can understand. Even I have very little doubt that a child will struggle hideously to put something together in the Sparkster platform. It is relatively simple to use, which makes this almost a non-issue. And these are the two biggest issues with blockchain technology. And in Sparkster's use case, if they're able to bypass both of these issues by tackling them head on and really defeating them, then there are essentially no more problems, which is quite a beautiful thing.
Crypto crazy.
So let's not just consider this in a vacuum. Let's try and actually take a look at an example, a working example. And so for our example today, essentially, let's consider, spreadsheets. This is something that every business generally seems to have to use. It's a love-hate relationship, but, we can't seem to live without them. So how would Sparkster function alongside a spreadsheet? Well, first, I guess, Sparkster's wonderful in terms of adaptability, automation, usability, and speed. In terms of adaptability, you don't actually have to change your processes to accommodate to Sparkster. Sparkster essentially is built in a way whereby it will integrate quite smoothly into your business. It's already made to communicate well with spreadsheets and all those kind of things. And so, essentially what you'll be able to do is actually enhance your spreadsheets and the way you use them, and you won't actually have to just get rid of them and change the way that you operate altogether, and move you on to some completely different set of processes. In terms of automation, Sparkster also allows you to kind of automate those kind of monotonous tasks that you constantly have to be involved in, updating various kind of parameters and updating named ranges and lookups and reference and cell references, etc. All those kind of things that you have to do maybe quarter by quarter if you work in an evaluation team or something like that. These kind of things can be automated by Sparkster. I guess these things could probably be automated within like VBA and whatnot, but the Sparkster automation tool hopefully allows these things to be automated in much clearer language, and I guess things that can now be automated by anyone. Thirdly, Sparkster doesn't actually require any specialists. Sparkster, this really just means there's no more black boxes in your business. You no longer need to set aside certain tasks for an isolated team of individuals who are the only ones who have this knowledge and essentially therefore operate as key men, and which results in key man risk. But Sparkster now allows everybody, makes it quite easy for everybody and straightforward for everybody to understand what's going on and to actually build these things and these processes themselves. And finally, Sparkster is fast, and this actually allows for a wonderful collaboration between multiple people. So, for example, because it's very easy to work on a spreadsheet and have multiple versions of the truth, because various other people are working on it. But how can you imagine a world whereby you can actually work on a spreadsheet collaboratively with other people in your team, across the world, for example, and have it being updated in real time? And this is afforded to Sparkster because of the high transaction speeds. This is actually a possibility. So when all is said and done, Sparkster can enter into your, can be used in a business context, for example, without having to change the business, but can instantly, from day one, really start to bring about wonderful benefits to said business.
Crypto crazy.
So I guess just as some concluding thoughts, as per usual, this isn't financial advice, and you should consult a financial advisor before investing. But that said, I think this is actually a very wonderful platform. I think it's a platform that's essential for the progression of blockchain technology. I think it's a platform that is thoughtful in terms of trying to make it increase the ease of access for blockchain technology, and for companies to really get involved. And the architectural makeup is absolutely innovative and astonishing. It's producing wonderful results. It's already hitting a beautiful number of transactions per second, and that's not where they're stopping. They're going to keep going. Sparkster is actually doing a very fantastic job by the looks of it. So I definitely rate this a great ICO in my mind. But I do recommend that that research continues to be done before anyone thinks about just going out and investing in it. But yeah, that's my view. And I guess in terms of what's next,
Crypto crazy.
If you like these kind of videos, if you enjoy them, then like it. If you want more, then subscribe. And I'm happy to keep on producing these videos for the benefit of the people. So yeah, please do let me know. And if you have any comments, any thoughts, pop them out in the comments box. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Cool.